Hey guys, welcome back. I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm talking about goal planning. I'm getting more and more questions from people that I'm working with, whether it's my clients that I'm working with from a financial standpoint, people writing in about the podcast, individual coaching clients that I have on just life stuff, or the young advisors that I'm coaching here in my office. And the question that's coming up a lot is proper goal planning. Look, I'm no expert. There's plenty of times that I wish I'd gone back and planned a little differently to get out of the gate, but here's the pattern that I've realized. We get all fired up at the end of the year to prepare for the next year, right? New Year's resolutions. That's why everybody's in the gym and then they're gone, not long after that. But we get super fired up about all of this. And what I've come to learn is that people, myself included, go into this with this expectation that just because the calendar rolls over, things are going to change. They don't have to plan. They don't have to prepare. They don't have to take this on as seriously. They just think that with a new year comes a new mindset. And for most of you listening out there, hopefully you realize that's absolutely false. That will not work. What we have to do is we have to attack this just recklessly. We have to map it out. And here's the biggest message I'm going to send to you today is that planning should have actually started at the first of this fourth quarter here in 2016. If you're waiting until the holidays, like many people right now are telling me that they're about to do, whether that's spending time over the Thanksgiving or Christmas break, when they've got downtime with their family, or they're traveling or whatever, many people are telling me that they're going to wait until that time to do their goal planning for the end of the year. And I think you're just setting yourself up for failure. In fact, I would pretty much bet on it. If anyone wants to bet me on that, you're going to look back and realize that you should have taken a longer time frame to prepare for this. So I would encourage you, I wish I'd thought about this earlier and I wish I'd had this many requests come in about this, but I would encourage you to start now. Now I realize that's not extremely motivating. It's hard in the busyness of, some of you out there, whether it's in sales or in just any professional occupation that you're in or running your own business. It's hard to think about planning out the new year when you're scrambling trying to get everything done for the end of this year, right? But we have to do that. We have to, or we're going to look back and we're going to realize, we're going to blink and we're going to realize that we're already through the first quarter. It's happened to me year after year. I get really fired up for the new year. I start going into it right after January, coming back for the holidays, ready to just implement all this stuff that I thought about. It takes a little while to get that stuff going right. And before I realize it, March has come and gone. I'm through the first year. I'm off my goals. I haven't hit any of them the way that I wanted to. And I'm like, crud, I'm 25% of the way through my year already. And typically, guys, what happens with people whenever that instance occurs, which is most of us, I would argue, is that most people ditch their goals. They completely ditch those goals and they say, you know what, I'm so far off track of that goal that I had. Maybe now I can just get something. And they just start winging it. And you may have been that way. I've been that way. We all know people that way. So I would encourage you, start doing something different. And this year, I want to encourage you guys to start right now and take it little by little. Don't put too much on yourself. Start chipping away, whether it's on the weekends, whether it's in the evenings, whether it's early in the mornings like I do. Start chipping away at the new goals that you want for the new year. Come January 1, hopefully you've got some horsepower going behind you and you're already rolling into those goals and you're not trying to start from a zero starting block, ramp things up, and then just when you start seeing the fruit of that come, boom, we're already out of the first quarter. You feel defeated. You're 25% of the way through the year and probably not where you want to be. That's such a defeating feeling and nobody wants that. I heard quite a while ago, I think it was Brian Johnson that I heard mention this, and I've shared it with a lot of people that I've talked to, but it's this domino effect. It's the reverse way of goal planning. I've mentioned this on the podcast. I've mentioned this before to people that I've coached. If you're one of the people I'm coaching or listening to the podcast, you've heard this before, but here's a good reminder or refresher for some of you maybe not have heard it before, not in a long time. Picture dominoes. A domino can push over another domino that's 50% larger than its size. So you take a little tiny domino. In fact, there's I think there's a science experiment online. You can YouTube like dominoes being knocked over. But I think the biggest one is like huge. It's like 200 pounds or something like that. And the smallest one is so small you've got to put it down with a pair of tweezers. But you start knocking those dominoes over, and a domino can knock over another domino that's 50% larger than it. And so if you can imagine this momentum of these dominoes that start. So if you start with a domino that's an inch tall, I think the stat is, I hope I'm not screwing this up, but I think the stat is you start with a domino that's an inch tall. By the time it gets 36 or 50 dominoes out, you're literally, if you just keep that 50% larger all the way out, you're literally out to the distance, a domino that would reach from the earth to the moon. I mean, it's just something crazy like that, right? But here's the point of all this. We oftentimes think about goal planning with those dominoes in mind. I'm going to accomplish this first, and that's going to lead me to this, and then that horsepower is going to lead me to this, and that energy and momentum is going to lead me to this. And while that may be true, sometimes I found that starting here and then going here and here and here just doesn't get us there. We've got to start in the reverse. We've got to figure out where we're trying to go to. So whatever that big thing is you want to accomplish, that one big milestone thing that you want to accomplish, start there for 2017. Figure out what that thing is. Hey, if I hit this, everything that I can imagine will be accomplished. Then work backwards. It's backwards to the way that we think about it, but then work backwards. Figure out, okay, what step has to happen before that step in order to eventually get me there. And it takes a little bit of thought. I love it because it makes me sit there and think. If you're just going in a progression forward, it's pretty easy to put these goals in place and figure out some sort of a linear progression. But many times those steps don't mean anything, and we just boom, 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 we skip right over them. Going backwards actually makes you spend time. It's a deep work. It's a deep thought to get this. So I want you to start with the largest domino. That's your milestone. Think about the thing that has to happen before that. So before this big thing can happen, what do I do before that? And then think about what has to happen before that, and what has to happen before that, and before that. It takes time, so make sure you block off time to do this. But then you eventually get back to where you are today. And you know now what steps you will have to take going forward, but you've spent more time being intentional with every single one of those dominoes. And that energy going forward when 2017 starts is hopefully going to carry you straight out to where we don't get to the end of the first quarter and you're bummed out because you didn't get to where you want to be, but we are sequentially putting steps together. But we were in deep work thinking through those things as we work them backwards. Doesn't sound very hard, but it's harder than you think. And if what you're aiming for really does mean a lot to you, and it's really a momentous thing for you to do, it's probably going to require even deeper work, because you've really got to figure out what is that next domino. And going backwards, your brain's not wired that way. It's not wired to think that way. So I'd encourage all of you guys, start now, even though it may not be as motivating. Then once you get through the hectic part of the end of the year and you get to rest and relax a little bit, and then start planning some things out. Start right now. Start chipping away. Force yourself to do it little by little. And I think if you use this domino exercise, you're going to find that it pays a lot of dividends for just spending more deep thought and really analyzing every step of the process to goal setting, versus just starting where you are today. Boom, 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 boom. Here's where I want to be at the end of the year. Put your stuff away, and then you never visit it again until January 1. That's a recipe for disaster, guys, and we know that. So I'd encourage all of you guys with that. Keep writing into me on the podcast. Keep writing into me on my email address, which is info@success101podcast.com. And you can check out the podcast episodes at success101podcast.com/episodes. Also catch me on facebook.com/success101podcast, on Twitter @WarrenJared, and on Instagram @success101podcast. Look forward to hearing about how you guys are using this planning system starting now, where we use the dominoes and think backward and just get into much more deep thought around each one of our goals and proper goal setting. And I hope that helps you out a ton. Thanks so much.